Well, hello everybody, welcome back to John's Workshop, and this video is going to be Workshop Blether number 19. And I know it's not that long since I did one, probably only about 6 weeks, but I've got a few things that I need to go through. So a bit of an update on angle set. We're going to do a sticker that's coming to the shop that's long overdue me shouting out. Busy fitting my first of 3 coolant misters. This one's going on the milling machine, so we'll show a bit of that and a bit of the fitting as we're going along. And trouble at mill. So I've titled this video Trouble at Mill. This is a long-standing problem I've had with the machine since I bought it, so I'm going to go into a bit of detail around that, and the time has come for me to finally start addressing what some inherent problems that I think I've got on the mill. I'm trying to understand where the problems actually are, but I know there's definitely problems. So my next workshop blether won't be a blether, it's going to be, well, it will be a blether, it's going to be a Q&A, and I've discussed this probably 2 blethers ago I think, and floated the idea, got some quite good feedback, so I'm going to do a Q&A. So I'm going to go through that now in terms of what that is and the rules. So I get lots of questions repeatedly, and based on the recent success of the angle set video that put out, I've picked up a lot more subscribers, and thank you to all those that have come along and joined the channel. Very much appreciate your support, and an opportunity for all of you probably to learn a bit more about me as well as some of my longer term viewers. So the rules basically are: ask any question you like, and it can be about what I'm doing in the shop, what machines I've got, what projects I've got upcoming, how long have I been running a workshop. You make the questions up, I'm giving you examples, you know, what's my taste in music, where have I worked, what's my background, what's my history, the questions that you name the questions, okay. If there's anything personal that's not related to the channel, I just won't answer it. If there's anything that is about my work that I can't answer, unfortunately, because some of my work is defence work, so I'm quite limited in terms of what I can say, but I'll try and answer as best I can. And if there's an absolute flood of questions, I don't want a Q&A video to run on for more than sort of half an hour, my usual video length, so I might have to trim a few out, and apologies if that's the case. If there's some repeats, similars, I'll probably filter them out a little bit. So the way you ask the questions, just do it all through YouTube comments. That's the easiest way of me picking them up. That way I can filter them out and work around it that way. I'm talking 6 weeks probably time, 8 weeks before we do this. So 6 or 8 weeks for you guys and girls to give me your questions, and I will do my very best to answer them for you. And then a little bit around upcoming stuff, which will largely relate at the moment to trouble at mill. There's going to be a couple of videos around me trying to get to the bottom of some of the issues on the mill, and also there's some other odds and bits and bobs of projects that I've got going on. And so yeah, without any more babbling, we'll move into the babbling in a blether video. We'll move into the angle set update. So yeah, that video was extremely well received. I got no idea that it was going to be that popular. It was just an idea. It's nothing new, nothing novel. It's just basic engineering principles using dowels for location, so there's nothing really novel about it. You know, quite a few people have said patent the idea and stuff like that. Really not worth it. You need a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy to get a patent. I've already got 2 in my name through industry over the years, and so I know what's involved in the process, and I also know that in the modern day world, anywhere largely outside of, I need to carefully watch what I say, but there are certain parts of the world that pay no respect to any patent at all anyway, and will just copy whatever's been patented. And the downside of that is a patent tells you everything you need to know about the invention, so makes it very easy to copy. So yeah, I don't hold a lot of faith in that, and certainly I don't have the money, time or funding to pump into a patent. So yeah, it went down well. One thing I need to call out, on the left hand side I've made a mistake. So this is what happens when you mark your own homework. The 45-degree hole position on the left hand side, as you look at the front of the angle set, should have a minus X value on the drawing, and it's got a positive X value on the drawing. Now hopefully most people will figure that out, but if you are looking at it and you're confused, that 45 degrees position, the X value should be a minus, I think it's 20 something millimeters, I don't forget what the numbers are, but it's a minus value. It will just be the exact opposite of the one on the right hand side. So in terms of the angle set, loads of great suggestions. It's been really good to see all of the different suggestions that have come in, and I've tried to answer all of them, and lots of them went into like real complex stuff that I could have done, and I've thought those thoughts myself, but I wanted this to be simple to use, simple to make, and simple to reuse when you're not using it every day. So lots of the thoughts I've got about turning it into a bit of a sign bar as well. That means then you need slip gauges, and not everybody's got them, and you've then got to start doing trigonometry, and not everybody's comfortable with doing that. So I just wanted something that was basic, simple, easy to use, and that's why I went for that design. Not to say that we couldn't improve that, and there will be an update to this in it'll be months before it comes out, but I am going to go back to the CAD system, add in some more holes around Morse Taper 2, Morse Taper 3, Morse Taper 4, probably even maybe some of the other threads, Acme thread, things like that, if there's enough space to get that onto the part. And I will release the drawings in the same way. So if you've made one of these and you've not hardened it, all you've got to do at that point is put a dowel in the datum hole, clock that up so you know you're on 00, and then you can just go and pop the extra holes in that have come on the, you know, on the version 2 or Mark 2 of the part, so it's adaptable. So thank you to all the supporters for the kind donations and all the views and all the comments on the angle set. That's been really great, and obviously helped the channel out a lot. You know, 1,000 odd new subscribers over the course of 2 weeks, absolutely phenomenal. Up to that point, 1,000 subscribers was taking me the best part of a year to get, so yeah, phenomenal. So I need to get my thinking cap on and come up with some more good ideas, clearly. Okay, so into stickers. So I've had a sticker in from the Shed Shop. So this is James at the Shed Shop. I'll just hold that up to the camera. So thank you, James. So if you've not seen James's channel, go and check it out. It's quite new. It's been on for about a year. I've got a nice note from James as well. And James's channel is, could do with some support, and lots of videos around fixing things up that he's got around this sort of home, things like that, and also a very small Unimat lathe. I think it's Unimat SL that he's got, and lots of videos around that lathe. So if you've got a Unimat, probably go and, even if it's to help James out with some of the things that he's got going on with his. So I think that'll be very good. So go and check James's channel out, please. That'll be good. So let's move on to coolant misters. So we'll do that first. I've bought 3, shown them before. I'd planned to put one on the mill, one on the lathe, one on the surface grinder. I'm starting with the mill because that machine probably gets the most use and would be the most useful having coolant on there. So I've come up with an idea that I'm going to show you at the minute. Because I want to put a mister on 3 machines, I've come up with a bit of an idea to make that easier and less wasteful with coolant. So I'll take you to the mill, I'll show you that, and then we'll run straight on into the trouble at mill and tell you what that's all about. Okay, so here's the coolant mister device for the mill. So I've just roughly got it piped up at the minute, just plugged in, and just to check where my pipes are going to go and where the unit was going to sit. So the unit is going to sit on the quill, which is just out of shot, but we're going to show the fitting of that just presently. So the idea I've had is, because I want to put one of these on 3 machines, as I've said before in my coolant tips video, coolant, soluble coolant goes off over time, especially when it's not being used. So if I had 3 bottles, one on each machine, I guarantee that certainly on the surface grinder that I don't use very often, I would be putting coolant in the bottle, and within weeks and weeks, next time I come to use it, it'll be all smelly and horrible and it's gone off. I don't want that situation. So I've given this a bit of thought and tried to come up with an idea that gets me around that problem. So I'm just going to pan the camera up and I'll show you my thinking. And that's my solution. So readily available, dirt cheap. I've got a bicycle drinking bottle. I've modified the top so that the coolant feed sits in the bottle. I can fill the bottle up to whatever level I decide that I want to fill it up to with my coolant, and on the wall is just the standard clip that you would use for clipping your bike drinking bottle onto your bike. So what that all means is, you know, when I'm working on the mill, I pop my bottle of coolant into that one. I've got 4 more of these clips, so I put a clip on the wall behind the surface grinder and a clip on the wall behind the lathe, and when I'm moving between machines I just pop the bottle out, pop the pipe out the top, which appears to be easier said than done. That hole's a little bit tight. Only a bit more work to do on that, but you get the idea. I'll pull that pipe out through the centre of there, hang it around the clip, and then I move the coolant bottle to the machine that I want to use, drop the pipe in the top, stick it in the holder, and I've just got the 1 bottle of coolant. I've not got 3 bottles of coolant going off around the shop. So that is my thinking. This is in a temporary position just for now, just to test the idea, test the height, all that kind of thing. This will be moving probably as part of the trouble at mill, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And part of what I'm going to do to address trouble at mill will involve me putting some framework behind the milling machine that I can then run pipes and things like that and get them all tied up out of the way and not at risk of getting caught by swarf and that kind of thing. So with that being said, we'll move on to, I'll show a bit of the fitting of this, and we'll show a bit of the testing of it, and then we'll move on to the trouble at mill. Okay, so we're getting ready to fit our coolant mister in place. So I've put 1 hole in, and I'm going to move the camera out of my way now, and I'll show you how I'm setting up to put the 2nd hole in to make sure that we get this nice and square onto my chunky quill plate that I made. And again, if you've not seen that, go back and check out my video. And the whole idea behind this was things like this to attach bits and pieces on the side. So I've shown how I've made that, and it's now starting to come in useful. So I'll move the camera, we'll get the 2nd hole drilled, tapped, and we'll get the unit fitted to the quill plate. Okay, so we're just going to stick a cap screw into the hole that we've already done. And we're just going to nip that up until it stops moving. And now I'm just going to check it for alignment. So we're nice and square like that at the base of the quill plate. That's good. And then these holes are 5.5mm diameter, so I've got a 5.5mm diameter drill, which we're just going to drop in there and just spot the hole. We put our tapping drill in for M5. About there, I think. Countersink. And our tap. And there we go. That's got our coolant mister unit fitted to the machine. So I'm just going to do a bit of work with the pipe work now. I'm not going to film all of that because this is a blether video, but I just thought I would show with a decent sized quill plate on how quick and easy it is to fit something like this to it. Okay, so we've put our regulator in place. Now this is probably temporary where it is now. All this is temporary for the minute while I play around. What I have found is that the bottle is too high up on the wall where I got it, so I need to move that to a low position. It needs to be just about level with the output. So I've been playing around with this a bit, and what I've got in my bottle is my new coolant, which I'll show you now. So this is what we've bought. This is a semi-synthetic coolant, which is soluble oil. You mix it in exactly the same way as the standard typical cheap stuff that if you've been watching my channel a while you'll have seen me using that for long enough. This is a much better quality coolant, slightly more expensive, and I thought we'd go for something a bit better. So what I've been doing is playing around, and what I've found is, as well as having to get the bottle at the right height for this, I've also found, and you'll see I've got a toolmaker's clamp clamped just quickly around the coolant feed pipe for this to restrict the flow of coolant going into the unit to get this how I want it, so it will mist at a much lower air pressure so that my compressor's not constantly running and I'm getting a decent mist out at the back. So I'll just fire that up now and show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to lift my bottle up to about the right height and we'll turn the unit on. Take a while, and there we go. That's got, I don't know whether you can see the mist coming out there now, but that's got probably still a little bit too much mist. So I have a bit more work to do yet in terms of restricting the flow in this pipe, but that's given me enough of an idea of how I need to set this up permanently. So I'll do that obviously off camera and you'll see this in use in the future. Okay, so trouble at mill. What is all that about? So I've been chasing an issue on this milling machine since I bought it. I can't, and I bought it brand new, I can't face mill. It just will not face mill. I can just about fly cut if I'm taking 0.1 of a mil depths of cut. No more than that. The machine just makes a horrendous noise, lots of vibration, lots of chatter. If I'm end milling a slot, I'm limited to the depth of cut I can take. And even side milling a slot, I get vibration. Now you're always going to get vibration. This isn't a a production milling machine. It's an Eastern import. So I'm not expecting more of this than is possible, but I've seen other people with these machines taking far deeper cuts without the problems that I get, and I've done all the work to stiffen the spindle up, so this should be better than what I've seen elsewhere. It's not, it's worse. When I spot drill a hole and I come to follow that with a drill, as soon as the drill enters the material I can feel bouncing and it makes a racket until I've got the drill buried in the material. Then it drills okay, and then when I'm breaking out the back of material I can feel this sort of bouncing again. So that's led me to start looking further up at the machine. So I've got a DTI just sat on top of the vise here, and under my quill plate I've got my head locked off, so there should be no movement on the dovetail of the head, and I'm just going to put my hand underneath and push. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's about 6 thou movement that way. It returns to 0, and if I push down on the top of the head now or pull down, I've got about 6 thou movement that way, and it returns to 0. So I've got flex in this machine, so I'm just going to move the camera. So my flex is either here in this portion of casting at the back, or it's down here at the bottom of the column where the column joins the base. I'm suspecting it's down here, but it could well be up here as well. This is quite a weak casting, and there is a lot of weight on the front of what is a very thin casting at the back here. So it's one of those two. It's one of those two that is giving me this flex, and I think is the root cause of a lot of the problems I have on the machine. So I'm thinking about how I attack all of this. So I'm going to go for the easiest option first, and I'm going to tie back. So I've taken some more checks other than this one, by the way. I have had DTIs elsewhere on the machine, all different areas, trying to fathom where the flex is, and at this point it's kind of difficult to tell, because obviously the closer back to the point of flex I get, the less movement I'm seeing. So I'm seeing movement in all of it, so it's probably a bit of both, if I'm being honest. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a bracket that is going to bolt to the top of the pillar, or you know, the sort of main casting at the back here, and we're going to tie this back to the wall. So this is a wooden wall, but I have got behind there some decent timbers that are screwed to the brick wall on the other side, and I know where those joists are. So I'm going to make a bracket up that ties back to one of the wooden sort of studs that I've got behind the wall, and I'm going to try and restrain this whole column casting from moving by restraining it back to the wall. So fairly simple to make, and with some adjustment on it, so that once I've got it connected I can then alter the adjustment with a DTI on the front of the slideway at the top until I just see movement, so that I know I've got it at the right tension. And then we're going to try the machine again. So this will all be part of a separate video. I shall film what I do because it might be helpful for others, and we'll see what that does for us. And if that works, great. If that partially works, good. And then we'll work on what we do next. So if it's this bit in here, that's a lot more difficult to fix, and I've not yet thought about that, other than potentially building some kind of counterweight system to take the weight of the head over some rolls at the back with a breeze block or something hanging down the back to completely neutralise the weight of this head hanging off the front. That could work, but there might be other ways to do that as well. So one at a time, we're going to go for the easy option first, tie it back to the wall, and then we'll work from there. So that's going to be in one of the upcoming videos, and I'm keen to see whether I can improve this to a point where I think I'm happy with it for an import milling machine. I'm not trying to turn this into a Bridgeport. It's not a Bridgeport, it never will be. If I could have got a Bridgeport in this workshop, I would have done, but I can't because of my height restrictions. So we're making do with this, and we're going to try and get it as good as we can. So with all that being said, I'm going to move back to the board and we'll close this blether video out. Okay, that gets us to the end of this blether video, almost. So the final thing on the board was upcoming stuff. So as you've just seen, some repairs to the milling machine is going to be in the mix over the next few weeks. I've a few other projects that have been kicking around forever, such as putting a DTI on my quill on the milling machine. I've got everything I need for that, but again, if I'm going to be messing around with the mill head, adding coolant, all that, I want to get all that done before I start adding any more measurement equipment, for want of a better word, to the front. So I'll do that later. So that's upcoming, and then really whatever other projects I dream up, hopefully something akin to the angle set, and or even version 2 of the angle set, whatever, and then other kind of tooling, that kind of thing, for general workshop use, that kind of thing. So that's what we've got upcoming at the minute. No major projects on the horizon, although I am thinking of one or two that we could potentially do, but I'm not going to give anything away yet because I've not made my mind up. So I think that's probably it for the board. So as I said at the beginning, Q&A, if you want to take part in that. I know that's not for everybody, and if it's not your thing, just don't watch it, that's fine. for those that do want to know a little bit more, send me the questions on Q&A, and I will collect them all over the next few weeks, and we'll do a Q&A session in a few weeks time and dig into a bit of my background and whatever else you want to ask questions about, as I said earlier. So I hope you found that interesting. I've tried to throw a bit of other stuff into the blether this week just to show you some of the other stuff that's going on in the workshop other than projects. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to the subscribers and the new subscribers, and as I'm closing this video out, I've gone over the 5,000 mark, so that's fantastic. I may recognise that at a point, not quite yet because I'm not ready, but I'm probably going to do something in the next few weeks, and we'll probably try and do a bit of a giveaway or something. It'll be long after I've gone over the 5,000, but I think it's worth marking it, so I'll have a think about that. No promises yet, but we'll see, and if I got anything like that, we'll let you know, of course. So thank you all, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you all very soon on another video when we'll be making something else.